this way tonight. I think last month, the conversation that we had last month really created the kind of the bedrock, the foundation, if you will, of really everything that we want to talk about in this specific conversation this month. And so those of you who weren't here, let me wrap up the tail end of last month's conversation. And we're just going to continue just forward in the conversation that we had. So here's ultimately how we ended up. We looked at 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 9 through 11. And we see the identity that's been given to us in the scriptures, those who call themselves followers of Christ, and even more than just call themselves followers of Christ, those who fully, 100% know the gospel, know the radical, revolutionary love story of Jesus, how it's transformed their lives, beginning to dig the roots down deep in their life and beginning to transform their lives. Now here's what the scriptures tell us, specifically in 1 Peter 2, verses 9 through 11. It says that you, the church, if you call yourself a follower of Christ, if you know the gospel and it's transformed your life, you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, and a people belonging to God. And the question I posed last week was, when you hear those phrases, the weightiness of those phrases, how huge and big those phrases are. When you hear the weight of those phrases placed on your shoulders, that you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, and a people belonging to God, the question that I pose and the question that begs is, do you need anything else? When I see those words in Scripture, and they tell me that is now my identity that's found through Christ and through Christ alone, the question begs, do we need anything else? Can you think of anything else that you would add to those four phrases that you think is necessary for your identity? Is there anything more necessary than being a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a people belonging to God, a holy nation? And those pieces of this overarching identity all carry characteristics with them. Go back, listen to the podcast, you can hear all the characteristics. But essentially, the question that begs is, do we need anything else? Is there anything else that you would add to that list? Because when we fully grasp our identity found in the scriptures, we need nothing else. We need absolutely nothing else. There is no other pursuit. And so the characteristic of somebody who recognizes their identity as these phrases, as this new identity found in the gospel, the characteristic is simply rest. Those who know their identity, biblically the way that we've been called to know identity, those of us who know our identity biblically, the way that we've been invited to live this life through Christ, they're characterized by rest. They're characterized by this subtle confidence that exists because they know who they are through Christ and through Christ alone. It's characterized by rest. And so here's the invitation. Most times, when the preacher's preaching and opening up some scripture, they typically say the invitation till the end, right? I'm going to give it to you up front. The invitation is simply this. I want to invite you along with me because we're in this together. I have been wrestling, with this concept for the last several months, and I'm going to share a story with you that forced me to wrestle with it in a much more personal way than anything I was looking forward to. But I just simply want to invite you to wrestle with what it means biblically to rest. So would you join me over the course of the next couple of weeks as we just unpack the scriptures and see over and over and over again what it means to press pause, the art of the pause, what it means to rest. Let's pray real quick and we're going to jump into this. Father, tonight, as we open your scriptures, everything is worship tonight, whether it's through song or whether it's through listening and participating in just every nuance of this moment, Father. The reality is it's all a response to what you've initiated with us. The scriptures say that you first loved us, and so everything is a response. And so, Father, we simply want to respond to your goodness and to your invitation. So we love you, we thank you in your precious name, I pray. Amen. Here's the bedrock, here's the foundation. So this is what we said last month. Hope. If we understand hope, hope is a powerful, powerful concept, a powerful word. If we understand hope, we ultimately know that hope breeds trust. That which we hope in, we ultimately learn to trust in. And so if we put our hope in money, we learn to trust in money. Which again, remember, 1 Timothy, tell those who are wealthy not to put their hope in wealth. Tell the rich not to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain. But tell them to put their hope in God, who richly provides everything for our enjoyment. If we put our hope in wealth, then ultimately we're going to learn to trust in wealth, which we know is uncertain. If we put our hope in a relationship, because the sheer fact that that other person is a person, we know that they're flawed from the beginning. And so if we put our hope in another person, we know that that person is going to let us down. But we learn to trust in that person, and when that person lets us down, all of a sudden the foundation falls out from beneath us. Enter the divorce rate of over 50% in America. If we learn to put our hope in our scholastics or academics or our sports or athletics, in whatever our hands can do, we know that ultimately we learn to trust in those things. And I love what Donald Miller said in his book, Blue Jets. He says, self-discipline will only take us so far. So if I hope in everything that I can do, that's only going to take me so far. But fall in love, and he goes on to describe all the ridiculously foolish things that a man will do for a woman. And when we look at the scriptures, we see men all throughout the biblical text doing what seems like to you and I ridiculously foolish things. One of my buddies who actually was part of this student community, who's now on staff with us, he's our director of missions, Jeremy Tosh. And when I interned out here, I remember Jeremy was only a sophomore. When I came here, he was a senior, and he graduated. God has completely transformed his life. And he came back after he went to Liberty University, my alma mater. He came back, he felt this call to go into missions, and he's leaving in like 10 months to go live in a hut in Indonesia, in the middle of absolute nowhere, that has no connections with the rest of the world whatsoever, because he wants to bring the gospel to an unreached people group in the middle of Indonesia, which, by the way, just had 2 massive earthquakes off the tip of Sumatra. He's going to go bring the gospel to a people group who's never heard Jesus before, and who's devout Muslims. It seems foolish, yes? When we rely on the things that we can do, when we hope on the things that we can do, ultimately we know that eventually is going to let us down. But when we fall in love, and here's what we know, love is the root of obedience. So over and over in scriptures, we see that those who love me keep my commands. But when we fall in love, we begin to see people do just seemingly ridiculously and foolish things. All because love transforms. Love transforms. So that which we hope in, we will learn to trust in that. And it goes a step further, because what we learned last month is the things that we trust in, we have to depend on. We have to depend on everything that we trust in. So from the beginning, if we hope in the wrong things, we're going to learn to depend in the wrong things. So there's kind of our foundation. What we hope in, we learn to trust in. What we trust in, we have to depend in. We have to rely upon it. So I want to take it one step further. If we hope in the things that we're called to hope in, specifically the gospel, specifically Christ, when we hope, we learn to trust in Jesus. When we learn to trust in Jesus, we have to depend on Jesus, which last week you'll remember, as I said at the beginning, is the foundation of prayer. Every time we see in scriptures where people pray, then we recognize that they're absolutely dependent on God. And so they pray for that which they cannot do, for that which is so far outside of them. So what we hope and we trust, and we depend on, it's Christ that we learn to depend on. All of a sudden we find this sense of confidence. Yes? We have confidence in the things and the people that we depend on. Some of you guys have parents that you can ultimately depend on. Some of you don't, which is a sad reality. But you learn to put confidence in your parents because you've learned to depend on them, because you trust them, and because you've put your hope in them for everything, to provide everything that you need. And again, the end result of confidence is simply rest. We see in scriptures over and over again the people who put their confidence, who put their hope and their trust and their dependence and their confidence in God, in Christ, in Jesus alone. They have this sense of rest. It's something I believe in America that we know very, very little about. So Sunday morning we were downstairs in our small group time, and I was with all the seniors. And seniors, if you would remember, I prayed in our last prayer as we were kind of talking about this hope reality. I prayed in the closing prayer. I said that this scary prayer is that God would force us, that God would thrust us into situations that we can do nothing but completely depend on Him alone. You guys remember that, seniors? You guys remember? That's how I closed out. So I'm going to invite you guys to pray this dangerous prayer with me. Can we, will we pray the prayer, God, force me to completely put my hope 100% in you? Because biblically, we recognize that that is the beginning of life. That is the beginning of life making sense. And so it's a dangerous prayer. It's a dangerous prayer because God will begin to prune. Remember John chapter 5? God will begin to prune things out of our life, people out of our life, relationships out of our life, to force us to completely 100% depend and trust and hope in Him, so that we can ultimately have confidence to live this life, and so we can ultimately get to a place where we can begin to rest. Yes? And so I get a text. That was Sunday. I get a text. Monday afternoon at about 1:30. I'm on my way to Starbucks for a coffee meeting, and it's from my mom, and it says, "Emergency, please call." My mom's Italian. She's easily excited. It's probably where I get it from. If you went to one of my Italian reunions, everyone's about this big. They're the hairiest people you'll ever meet on earth. Uncle Giovanni, Uncle Ether, Carmen, Ciroli. I mean, my grandma looked like Al Pacino before she passed away, okay? So you can understand my mom's very easily excitable. So sometimes my mom can be a little bit dramatic. You know what I'm saying? And so when I say emergency, please call, I'm sitting here being like, Mom, what are you calling for? So I called my mom. I said, what's up? She's like, you know how Dad had to go in for tests, right? And I said, yeah. She goes, your father has prostate cancer. How many have ever been touched by cancer before? Raise your hand real quick. Most of us. Cancer's different when it touches your family. You know what I'm saying? Those of you who know what this feels like in your family, like it's just different. Like if cancer touches your family, and I'm here and you're in our community, like that's bad enough. You know what I'm saying? Like that's difficult enough to kind of shoulder that with you, to kind of walk alongside you, put your arm around you, and to know that you can, kind of rest upon your community a little bit. But man, it's a completely different world when it's your daddy. Do you know what I'm saying? And those of you who don't know, my dad's my best friend. My dad was my best man at my wedding. My dad is my best friend. I don't call my dad Dad, I call him Crackerhead. That's how great a relationship my pops and I have. Do you know what I'm saying? He calls me Crackerhead Jr. I don't know where it came from. It's not cool. He just started calling me that when I was in high school. My pops he's my best friend. My daddy was Superman to me growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I truly believe that my daddy can beat your daddy up. And you know what? He could. My dad was 6'5", 300 pounds growing up. He was a mountain of a man. My dad was Superman. My dad was indestructible. I see my dad in moments of aggression and moments of adrenaline hit that I've never seen men do before. I've seen my dad pick up cars. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking. I seen this one dude walk up to me. We were playing in a basketball tournament, and he cussed me out. This was another father. I was 16 years old. He cussed me out. My dad snatched him by the neck. and picked him up in the air. His feet were dangling off the ground. And my dad reared back and got tackled by my friend's buddies, my buddies' dads. My dad was, he's a man. You know what I'm saying? He's from New York. He's a hardcore New Yorker. My dad was Superman. He's Superman. My daddy doesn't get it. My dad, cancer. My dad. And I prayed that prayer on Sunday. And Monday, I'm forced with everything that I've been preaching through with you guys. And here's what's fun. Oftentimes, what we help other people with, God's preparing our hearts for. You know what I'm saying? And I was forced in that moment to remember that I can't put my hope in my Father. I can't put my hope in an earthly relationship. And you know what? Even if I attempted to put even hope in anything, there's absolutely nothing I can do. I'm living in St. Louis now. He's in New York now. There's absolutely nothing I can do in a moment of just feeling utterly helpless and worthless. There's nothing I can do. Nothing. And so I'm forced in this moment, my family is forced in this moment to wrestle with the fact that our hope lies completely 100% in Christ and Christ alone. My daddy knows Jesus. Thankful for that. He's raised me up to know Christ. I'm thankful for that. But right now, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing you can do. And yes, we can sit back and we say we can pray. Absolutely. Please pray for my dad. Please. There's nothing that we can do. This is just an opportunity for us to step back and say, you know what? Jesus, you're the only one who can provide. You're the only one who can do what's necessary in this moment, who can provide what's necessary in this moment, who can give wisdom where wisdom's needed in this moment, who can give doctor's skill where skill is needed in this moment, can give freedom and hope to the people involved where freedom and hope is needed. And so I'm forced to wrestle with this reality too. But more than anything, in this moment, I'm forced to deal with my soul, with not being in a place of rest. You know what I'm saying? And here's what the Bible says. If you remember, Philippians chapter 4, starting in verse 6. It says, don't be anxious for nothing. What's the opposite of rest? The opposite of rest is it's anxiety, it's stress, it's frustration. The synonym of rest would be peace. It says, don't be anxious for nothing. So rest, we're called to be in a place of rest with Christ. After we put our hope in Him, we've learned to trust Him, we ultimately know that we're dependent on everything that He will provide for us. They just remember that the nation of Israel was wandering through the desert after being rescued from slavery in Egypt, and they've got nothing to eat, and food falls from heaven. They've got nothing to drink, and Moses takes a staff and hits a rock and it spews water for them. I mean, God provided everything that they needed. And that's why when Jesus says in Luke chapter 11, when He said, pray like this, for our daily bread today. The whole point of the Lord's Prayer, the whole point of prayer was to force us and remind us that we're absolutely 100% utterly dependent on God to provide. And there's nothing your hands can do. And even if we get to a place where we think our hands are doing something, even if we get to a place where it's us who's provided it, which by the way is an epidemic and disease in America called entitlement, because we're Americans, we believe we're entitled to, you fill in the blank. Because we live in this unbelievable nation, in the moment that we think we've done something to get something in return, remember Deuteronomy chapter 8, when Moses warns the Israelites, a day will come when you will have plenty. A day will come when you will no longer be in need. There will be enough cattle on the hill. You'll have enough food. You'll have enough grain in your storehouses. And don't forget, in the moments that you have the temptation to think that you've done something to get all that, don't you forget, don't you dare forget, that it's God who provided you with the means and the skills necessary for you to get what it is that you have. And we're reminded in this moment that everything we have is a blessing. Everything. Clothes in your bag, blessing. House, blessing. Car, blessing. Money for food, blessing. The fact that you ate today, blessing. The next breath, blessing. God provides everything we need. And I love what it said in 1 Timothy for everything for our enjoyment. Don't be anxious. Philippians chapter 4. Don't be anxious for anything. But take all that energy that you would be wasting in frustration and anxiety and in stress and put it towards prayer. Don't be anxious for nothing, but in everything, pray. Give your petitions to God with a heart of thanksgiving and gratitude, it says in Philippians. And the peace, synonym for rest, and the rest, the peace of God that passes all understanding will be given to you. All the time that we spend stressing and full of anxiety and depression, take all that time and energy, put it into prayer. Because in prayer we recognize that we're completely dependent on God for everything. In those moments we will experience the peace that passes understanding, the rest of God. The rest of God. Open your Bibles, Matthew chapter 11. This is a brilliant passage at the end of Matthew chapter 11. I've read it lots of times. My wife has read it lots of times. Senior girls. This is kind of going to be like the cornerstone of where we're heading in the next few weeks. Starting with verse 28. Come to me. This is Jesus speaking. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened. Come to me, all who are full of anxiety, all who are full of stress, all who are overwhelmed, all who are full of burdens. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I, Jesus, the gospel, I will give you rest. Here we see this word rest. I will give you rest. Verse 29. Take my yoke. That means teaching. Take my teaching upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart. And you will find, here's that word again, rest for your souls. Verse 30. For my yoke, my teaching is easy and my burden is light. Jesus invites us to learn from him. I want to read this same exact passage from the Message translation, Eugene Peterson. I think Eugene Peterson potentially writes a phrase in here that I believe after he wrote this phrase, he could have, not to be morbid, he could have rolled over and died and would have been the most satisfied man. Listen to this phrase that he writes here. Again, Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. Are you tired? Worn out? Burned out of religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you, Jesus speaking here, remember, I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. And listen to this next phrase. If you've got a pen, you're going to want to write this phrase down. Listen to this phrase. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. This is brilliant. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it, Jesus says, and learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Do you sense the piece of rest here? The unforced rhythms of grace. Like Jesus is enough. And I don't even have to force myself to believe that Jesus is enough. It's unforced. It's natural. It's organic. It feels like, yes, this is good. This is right. Regardless of any situation that's happening in my life. Remember, Paul writes Ephesians from a jail cell in Rome. Regardless of anything that happens in your life, nothing is out of the control of God. Nothing is outside of his sovereignty. He says, come to me, learn from me, and learn the unforced, natural rhythms of grace. That's another way of just saying, you know what? I've got you. I've got you. Regardless of what's happening in your life, rest upon me. Fall back upon me, because I'm the only consistent and constant in your life. He's going to say, I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. I love this. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Wait a minute. I just found out my pops has prostate cancer. And you're telling me you're not going to lay anything heavy? Nothing big, nothing ill-fitting on me? And he's saying, that's nothing. Prostate cancer answer is nothing when you're learning the unforced rhythms of grace that are found completely in me. When you live in me, the fact that your daddy just lost his job is nothing. It may be stressful on you, but remember, don't take that stress upon yourself. Take that stress and put it into prayer. Because it's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to put something upon you that's too big for me to handle. Notice he didn't say that's too big for you to handle. Why? Because it's in those moments that we learn complete and utter dependence on Jesus. The reality that you and I struggle with prayer, the reality that North America struggles with prayer, the reason that happens is because most of us don't know what it means to have need. I'm not talking about not having the things that you want. When's the last time you were forced to sleep out in the alley someplace? Which, this is the suburbs, we don't have any alleys. When was the last time that you were forced to go a day without a meal? When was the last time you were forced to not have the ability and the freedom to go to church and go to school? Like we don't even know what it means to have deep need. I'm speaking generally here. Not all of us are in the same position. Not all of us find our stories the same exact. I'm not saying that need doesn't exist, but we don't know what it means to just completely full out be dependent on God for everything. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. You learn to live freely and lightly. Open your Bibles, Genesis chapter 2. Let's jump in. Genesis chapter 2. So we know this creation narrative that has been told to us. We see this God who's been creating. Six days he's been creating, and on the seventh day, we know that the text says, and he rested. So this God, this Elohim, this creator who's been creating and been shaping and been ordering and been separating, he looks back on creation and he says, this is good. I like this. And so this creator enjoys creating. This creator, this being, not only does he enjoy creating, he enjoys looking at his creation and come back and saying, that's good. I like that. So this creator who creates, enjoys everything he creates, and then he creates things that create. So then he creates humanity and says, you know what? You do the same thing that I've done, and now it's your turn to create. And so he gives us the responsibility to do what he just did for the last 6 days. Now, in the Hebrew understanding of writing stories in poems or whatever, because really this is the creation narrative, the story that we've come to know, it's a poem that was written, okay? And so right in the smack dab in the middle of these Hebrew poems, it's called the chiastic form. Right in the middle of this chiastic form, typically the writers would put hidden thoughts. They would place or hide really the deep hidden truth that they wanted, that was the thrust of the poem, kind of right in the middle. So we see God creating. And then on the seventh day, we see God resting smack dab in the middle. That's an H. Yeah, that's an H. On the fourth day, smack dab in the middle, we see sun, moon, stars. If you're a first century listener to this poem, or if you're one of the first people to have listened or have been a part of knowing this poem, you would have known to look to the middle of this poem. So what is the significance about day 4? What's the significance about sun, moon, stars? We know that the sun, the moon, the stars, we know that they mark the day, the years, and even more significant in the time that this poem was written, it marks the seasons. Now, to the first audience, or to those who have first heard this creation poem, this creation narrative, this word seasons is a giant concept, smack dab, hidden in the middle of this creation narrative. They would have seen this concept, this word seasons. This is huge in their understanding. In Jesus' world, seasons were massive. They were huge. There's a significance for a couple reasons here. The first significance is this is a reference to the Sabbath. The Jewish Sabbath started on sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. Sundown Friday to sundown Saturday was a time of 24 hours where they were commanded to do one thing and one thing only, simply to rest. On the Sabbath, rest, play, have a great time, fill your soul with whatever it is that fills your soul. But in these 24 hours, do nothing but have a good time. Do nothing but enjoy. Do nothing but play. Do nothing but simply rest. This is a massive concept, a huge thing that's going on and fully grasping what this first audience would have known. Now here's what, if you were a first listener to this, here's what you would have known. Who's this first listener? The first people who would have heard this poem before. Now, the Hebrews. The Hebrews were later called the nation of Israel. Now, the nation of Israel, we know in their history, in their story, that they were once slaves in Egypt, right? So, what does a day in Egypt look like for a slave? A day in the life of a slave in Egypt was 7 days, all day, making bricks. 7 days, all day, making bricks. And so they had quotas of bricks that as a slave you needed to meet. And if you didn't meet your quota, if you didn't meet your number of bricks that was necessary for you to make this day, you would be killed. And so your worth and your value as a slave in Egypt came from your ability to make bricks. Your worth and your value as a slave in Egypt came from your ability to make bricks. And so their value as a slave in Egypt simply came from what their hands can produce. Their value was placed simply on what their hands can produce. And so God's intent, the point was He rescued the nation of Israel, the Hebrews who would later become the nation of Israel. He rescued them out of slavery, out of bricks. He rescued them out of this identity and began creating for them a new identity. What was this new identity that He began creating for the nation of Israel? He began creating an identity of a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, and a people belonging to God. He began creating an identity that was no longer about a human doing. He wanted to teach him what it meant to be a human being. Oftentimes, we think we're known by what we do, and we neglect to really know who we are. Saint Irenaeus, who was, kind of the father of one of the fathers of the church, 2nd century, he was formative in the early development of Christian theology. He said that the glory of God is man fully alive. The glory of God is man fully alive. And so what God was doing was He was rescuing the slaves out of Egypt and was teaching them that you are not a machine. You're not a machine. You're not a human doing. You are a human being. You're no longer what your hands can produce in Egypt. Your value doesn't come from the fact that you've met your quota of bricks. Your value comes because I've simply rescued you. And I've invited you to belong to me. Period. Is where God begins to teach them their value is found. No longer in bricks. No longer in this. And so smack dab in the middle here, we know that this word seasons refers to the Sabbath. We also know that it refers to the festivals that were part of this culture, this Jewish nation. So the festivals, there was 7 festivals. 7 festivals every year. One of the festivals, in fact, went 8 days long. And so if it wasn't enough at the heart of God to command them and show them how significant rest was in their life, that once a week, take 24 hours, sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, to just enjoy me, to just enjoy creation, to enjoy that which you've spent time creating. You've worked hard for 6 days, which, by the way, work hard. There's no sacrifice for working hard. There's nothing wrong with working hard. Work hard, but make sure we find the rhythm of creating and then resting, of creating and then resting, of creating and then resting. Make sure we find that. But then there were these festivals. These 7 festivals, one in particular that lasted 8 days long, that they were commanded, you can't do anything. You can't do anything but play, have fun, enjoy adult beverages, have an incredible time for these 8 days, do nothing but enjoy me, enjoy my creation, enjoy everything that I've created, period. There were 7 of those. He wanted to drive home the importance of understanding and us recognizing that we're not a machine. You are not a machine. We must learn what it means to rest. So, the refrain of this creation story. And it was evening, and it was morning, the first day. Go back and read it later tonight. And it was evening, and it was morning, the second day. And it was evening, and it was morning, the third day. And it was evening, and it was morning, the fourth. You get this refrain, and to you and I, in modern day America, it's like, isn't that backwards? It was evening, it was morning. The first day in the Jewish culture, the day began at sundown. It was symbolic. It was a picture of moving from darkness into light the next day. There was symbolism of moving from darkness to light, moving from night to day, moving from ignorance to awareness. And here we see at the beginning of Scriptures a theme that exists throughout the entire Scriptures. We see the beginnings of that foreshadow of looking forward all the way to Luke 9:23. We begin to see the beginnings of death into life. We must die in order to experience life. The Jews in their culture believe that the day began at night, which is why I sent a tweet out last night to the seniors that said, sleep well tonight, rest well tonight, so that we may love well tomorrow. Rest well tonight, so that we may love well tomorrow. We see the rhythms all the way from the beginning of creation. We see this rhythm and this cadence and this flow of this death equaling life, this ignorance coming into awareness, this night going into day, this darkness going into light, where there's a time for us to refresh. And then there's a time, in 24 hours, there's a time for us to refresh in the evening. But then in this week, there's a time for us to refresh and rest. But then throughout the year, there's these 7 moments for us to recharge and refresh. Do you see the significance from the beginning of time of what it means to rest? To a point where, again, God began to command rest. This is good. So we see this cadence and this flow of creating into resting, creating into resting. And this becomes incredibly significant. Be careful, the writer says. He says, be careful that in the midst of all you're creating, we don't become so consumed in all that our hands can do that we forget to rest. And perhaps to this audience who would have heard this poem, they would have been reminded that if they're not careful, they can find themselves in another Egypt. They can find themselves in another reality that they've created, where all they're doing is working, creating, shaping, and never taking time to rest, which again, they would have remembered the days of slavery. So we see from the beginning of the Scriptures that this cadence, this flow, that if we miss it, is like slavery. It doesn't seem to to make sense. And so herein lies the tension. We've been commanded to create. We've been commanded to work hard. Work hard. 6 days. Work hard. Take some time to rest. And herein lies the tension. We have this biblical reality of resting rubbing up against what has come to be known as the American Dream. In 2001, a book was written called The Attention Economy. This is brilliant. Listen to this. A book was written in 2001 called The Attention Economy. The premise of the book, the main thought, the main thrust of the book was simply this, that marketers and advertisers, they know that they need to create a moment, as brief as it may be, they need to create a moment where you and I, as the audience, recognize that we have a need that they can fill, or that we didn't even know that we had this need in the first place. So they write this book, The Attention Economy. And the premise is that marketers and advertisers, if for just a brief moment, know that they need to hijack our attention with the need that they know that needs to be filled. We have a need that they can fill, or they need to create a need that we didn't even know that we had. They hijack our minds. And so the premise is simply this, that what gets attention grows. What gets your attention grows. They go on to say this is brilliant, listen. What gets your attention will grow in your mind. And if it grows in your mind long enough, you'll act on it. Which, biblically, this should begin to give us a picture of sin, yes? That what gets your attention will grow. And if it will grow in your mind. And if it gets enough attention in our mind, we will eventually act upon it. We'll eventually act upon it. Now listen to me, I know that many of you have been touched by an affair. Listen to me, affairs just don't randomly pop up on us anywhere. You don't accidentally, listen to me, I'm going to be a little potentially harsh here. You don't accidentally, and this has nothing to even do with affairs. This could be even for engaging in premarital relationships that are going so far beyond boundaries. You don't accidentally end up in bed with someone and do something that you shouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't just accidentally happen. But when a thought is placed in our mind and it gets enough attention, eventually we'll act upon it. The whole premise was this, that attention is scarce. Attention is limited. We have so much that is pulling for our attention that it's scarce. And they have to do their job. They only get this one tiny little shot. This brief moment. Michael White, who's the CEO of Adbusters, he says, depending on how much time you spend on the internet, you see anywhere between 1,000 and 3,000 advertisements a day. Attention is scarce. Everyone is vying for our attention. And the ones who get it, eventually, when we begin to think about it, and it gets this thought, this idea, gets our attention, eventually, long enough, we'll begin to think about it. Sure enough, if we bombard people long enough with what wasn't even a thought in their mind, that thought, given attention, becomes a need. And when that need is attended to, it becomes a purchase. I would submit that half, if not more than half of the things that we buy, we don't need. We just don't need them. So we see the tension of the American dream. And here's what this has produced. The American dream is a lure, and the supposed promise is so powerful that it becomes the driving force of every decision that we make. And here's what its message is. Its message is simple. The American dream simply says this, that what you have isn't enough. That what you have, it's not enough. It's not big enough. It's not nice enough. It's not expensive enough. It's not fast or hip enough. That what you have isn't enough. Do you see what this causes? What this has produced? What this has produced is this has produced a reality in North America of busyness. What I have isn't enough. But if I can do more and I can work harder, I can get more. I can get more that will hopefully be enough. But when that's not enough, I need to work harder. And what happens? We become busy. And the busier we get, the more the American dream becomes our idol. And the more the American dream becomes our reality, the further we get away from a biblical understanding of what it means to rest. Because we cannot rest in our need to become what the American dream has called us to become. It doesn't work that way. In the midst of wanting more, antidepressants in the last decade has tripled in the last decade. In a desire for more. We are living in a time that we're more busy than we've ever been before. And here's how to know it. We're making fun of this on Sunday morning. Walk up to someone and just simply say, you know what, how you doing? I guarantee you, one of the first two things they will say, I guarantee you, one of the first two things they'll say, good, man, I've never been more busy. Man, it's just crazy right now. I'm so busy. Or they'll say this, man, how you doing? Oh, I'm so tired. What happens? Our busyness forces us to be tired because we can't keep up. The experts are now saying, because of our multitasking, here's what's happening. Because of technology, we're able to do more. We're able to do more now than we've ever been able to do at one time before. We're able to do more at one time to be able to do it all so that we can have it all. That's what we call multitasking. Experts are now saying that North American teenagers can multitask so well that you guys are squeezing 31 hours into a 24-hour day. If given the opportunity, how many of you would text during class? How many would surf the web during class? How many of you even do that anyways? How many would get on Twitter during class? How many would you get on Facebook during class? This is multitasking. Here's what neuroscientists are telling us. In our age of multitasking, in the age of doing more, because of technology allowing us to do more, what's happening is we're actually creating the inability to learn. Your generation is learning in a different way than every generation that's come before you. And what this is creating literally, the neuroscientists are saying that the human brain has the inability to be able to fully 100% concentrate on more than one thing. And so what's happening is we're not fully concentrating on this, and we're not fully concentrating on this, and so our attention is divided. In the process of our attention being divided, we feel like we're accomplishing more because we're doing more, but in fact, we're actually being less efficient. We're actually doing less. And so the American dream has created this cycle that we can't keep up with. We can't keep up with it. And I would submit, specifically in North America, we are so far removed from the biblical idea of rest. We're so tired. We're so stinking tired. We don't even know where to begin to put our hope in God, to begin to trust Him, to learn how to depend on Him, to get to a place where we have confidence in Him, to get to a place where we're just resting in Him. We're just trying to produce more. What does this sound like? We've become dependent on what our hands can produce. We have become to find our worth and our value in what our hands can produce. What does this sound like? It sounds like the slaves in Egypt, doesn't it? Which is the exact thing that God came to rescue them from. I would submit to you and I tonight that we need to be rescued from the desire to want to do more. To want to do more. There's so many distractions in our life. We can't even begin to know how to press pause. Because when we get to a point where we press pause, there's so many other things firing in our brains. Because we love being distracted. How many study with music? How many study watching the TV? How many study while doing all these other things and we wonder why we have the 27th ranked education in the world? You know what I'm saying? Like we've created this and we're unaware of it. We're ignorant to it. We don't even know what it means to rest. So this desire is produced busyness, a sense of being tired and overwhelmed. It's produced anxiety, stress. So here's how I want to tell you. Here's what we need to begin to kind of wrap our minds around this word season. the early Jewish culture believed that we're supposed to live in rhythm with seasons. We're supposed to live in rhythm with creation. Again, sundown to sun up. Day starts how we go to sleep. Day starts how we learn how to rest, and we wake up refreshed, ready to go. We're supposed to live in rhythm with creation. We've created a world that we're totally out of rhythm with creation. We're staying up late, and we're getting up early, and we're tired, and we're sleeping in late. It just doesn't make any sense. So listen, we're in November. Look outside. What's happening outside? Everything's dying, yes? Trees are losing their leaves, and there's no more flowers in the ground. All the green is turning brown. The grass is going dormant. Everything is in the process of dying. Everything is in the process of slowing down. We're created to live in the rhythms of creation. It's November. It's time to begin to learn what it means to slow down. And here's where it gets really, really sticky. And here's where we lose a whole bunch of attention. In North America, it's the busiest time of the year. Holiday. The holidays. You're already hearing Christmas music everywhere you're going, right? You're already seeing Christmas commercials everywhere you're going. Starbucks already has their Christmas cups out. They're trying to manufacture a feeling in us. They're trying to manufacture the holiday spirit because it's freaking November 4th. We haven't even had Thanksgiving yet. And they're trying to get us ready for Christmas? Like, we're so out of rhythm. We're so out of rhythm. This is just kind of becoming the norm. Do you know what I'm saying? So here's what I want to begin with you. What does it look like in your life just to slow down? There's this interesting passage, and thanks for being with me. There's this interesting passage in Exodus chapter 24, verse 12. God commands Moses to go to the top of the mountain. This is interesting. That's the mountain. God commands Moses to go to the top of the mountain. And here's what it says. It says, go to the top of the mountain. When you're on top of the mountain, he says, stay there. Well, this word stay, its original Hebrew is the word hana. It literally means to be. And so, as redundant as that sounds, because the literal command is go to the top of the mountain, and when you get to the top of the mountain, be on top of the mountain. I mean, pretty redundant, yes? Almost funny, Go to the top of the mountain. When you get to the top of the mountain, be on top of the mountain. And really what a Jewish rabbi would tell you is this is a brilliant command, because God understands human nature. He understood that Moses would spend all his time and energy climbing to the summit of the mountain. Shut up. Climbing to the summit of the mountain. And God knew human nature. He knew that when Moses got to the top of the mountain, immediately he would begin to think about how he was going to get down. So God commanded him, when you get to the top of the mountain, be on top of the mountain. Slow down long enough so you don't miss a thing. Most when you get to the top of the mountain, be on top of the mountain, because by the way, that's what he gave him the 10 Commandments. He knew human nature that when you get to the top of the mountain, you're going to begin to look at how we get down. Do you struggle with fully being present, being here, being now? I do. I struggle with it so bad, to a point where sometimes my wife has to remind me when I'm home now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you struggle with being present here and now. What you're looking for, it's not there. It's not behind there. It's not under there. What you're looking for is it's here. The difference is those who understand it once you open their eyes and recognize it. Guys, as we take a moment to respond, as we just take a moment to respond to this deep truth in our life. Father, I'm inadequate. I feel inadequate to even begin to teach this. Because, Father, the rhythms even in my own life are so screwed up. There's times I'm just so busy. And you know what? I make the excuse that it's busy around good things. And Father, I have no idea what it means to take a Sabbath, to take a rest. Father, I have no idea what it means is that death is the engine of life. We're in a season right now that everything is slowing down and all creation is beginning to go dormant. It's all beginning to die, knowing that the spring is around the corner where life will burst forth. Father, as this community, if we're going to fully understand what it means to be your disciple, you command us to come walk with you. Come walk with me. I know you have stress. I know you have anxiety. I know that you're overwhelmed, trying to keep up with the American dream, trying to keep up with everything that everyone else has. Being screamed at every single day that what we have isn't enough. It's not good enough. It's not nice enough. It's not big enough. It's not fast enough. It's not hip enough. Jesus, bring that to me. That's what I want. Bring that to me, and I will give you rest. Father, I want to know what that rest feels like. I want to know that piece of your heart that from the beginning of time you have put into the order of creation. So, Father, we simply in these next few moments respond to you again for initiating this love. Your scripture says that love, that perfect love drives out fear. It drives out all anxiety. It drives out all the places we feel overwhelmed. It drives out all the places that we know that we can't make it on our own. Perfect love, that's you. That is your gospel. Your gospel is that perfect love story that invites us and drives everything else out of the way. And we begin to find rest. And Father, we long for rest. Give us peace. Give us rest that passes all understanding. So maybe we begin to slow down and just simply bring this to you in verses of all
He's just for me. He is just for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of His wind and mercy. And all of a sudden, I'm unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. I realize just how beautiful you are now. Great your affections are for me. And oh, how He loves us so. Oh, how He loves us. How He loves us. It's just how He loves us so. How He loves us. And how He loves us.
Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. And learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't let anything have you or ill-fitting on you. I'll keep company with me and learn to live freely and lightly. Father, we recognize that we have been created for more. We acknowledge that we have been created for more. And we also acknowledge and recognize that the allure of the American dream, the allure of the advertisers and the marketers who seek to hijack our minds, who implant this desire. And then we water that desire with more attention and it turns into an act. Father, we begin at this moment to acknowledge that that's not what you've called us to. And every time we follow the rhythms of the culture that's been created, the rhythms of this world, Father, we're not following the rhythms that you've created for us. And Father, we acknowledge and we know that we've created a world that's just completely out of sync. It just doesn't make sense, and we're constantly busy, and we're constantly tired. And although we have the mirage of being able to do more, having more opportunity to do more in order that we can do it all so we can have it all, Father, it doesn't seem to make sense. So Father, will you teach us how to slow down? Will you teach us how to come to you, to bring our anxiety and our frustrations and our stress and our feelings of being overwhelmed to you so that we can learn to have rest. Father, we want to have confidence. We want to depend on you. We want to trust on you. Father, we know that you are the only source of hope in this world and in this life, Father. And so we love you and thank you. This is all in your precious, holy name. Thank you for loving us. In the precious name of prayer. Amen. You guys, we thank Eric and piano and the suitcase and the cello and drums that are played with fan sticks. Is that what they're called? Brushes, that's what they're called. It's really good stuff. So make sure you guys say thanks to them. Hey, I really don't have anything, any announcements that I know of. If I do, come and let me know and I'll tell you. But otherwise, hey, we're going to continue to explore this next week. Go ahead and read. Go ahead and read Psalm chapter 23. Psalm chapter 23. We're going to break that down. We're going to break down passage of Luke 9. I'll tweet it out for you guys. So break that down. You have something? Oh, blankets. Yes. If you brought blankets, Ryan Reese's father is bringing blankets down to the needy and the homeless down in the city. And so drop blankets off with Reese and he'll take care of that. So love you guys, and we'll be continuing to unwrap this next week. So love you guys. We'll see you next week.